All right, welcome everyone to our first of the month, first Tuesday of the month, Builders Call. This call happens first and third weeks of the month, and it is for anybody looking to grow, build an organization, mastermind, get coaching, best practices, and learn, continue to learn and grow and share together. And so today I'm super excited because I was thinking about, we have different topics, and then one of the things that is common and consistent for people across the board generally is we want the benefit of what growing and building an organization can offer. However, there's often a disconnect because very few people have the identity that they just show up with of I'm a builder and this is what I do and this is what I want to do. There's more people that are identify themselves as real estate agents. And how do I be both? Or what does that look like? And is it going to take away from my business? And can I do both? Or is it one or the other? Can I be great at both? Or, what does that look like? What does that journey look like? And so I was thinking in the context of that conversation, somebody that's navigated that space so beautifully. I love some good resistance because on the other side of resistance, beautiful things can happen because there's energy, right? I remember there's some personal development training that I did, and they would go in and they would work with people that were incarcerated. And they would always say, I would rather have somebody that's going 180 degrees in the wrong direction, like with their hair on fire, than somebody that's totally complacent and just doesn't care. Because when you get somebody that is hell on wheels, going 180 degrees the opposite direction, if you get them turned in an effective direction, they create amazing things. Whereas in complacency, nothing gets created. So the person that we're going to have the opportunity to hear from today, I'm so excited. I love her dearly. What I will say about her, I'm not going to tell her whole story because we're going to make this conversation an interview style for the benefit of everyone. But what I will say is that my experience of her is that she's all heart. And when somebody leads with heart and really wants the best for people, they're willing to go above and beyond and do things that people that don't lead from heart are not willing to do. And she's somebody that I have a tremendous amount of respect for. She's created community at an incredibly high level, and the people in her circle are winning and winning big, including her. And so I'm super excited, Kim, to welcome you to the call today. Thank you for being on with us.
Thank you for thinking of me. I'm excited to be here and share.
Oh, love it. Love it. Love it. Well, for those that are on the call or that will catch the recording that may not know you or your story or your background, who was Kim before real estate? How long you been in real estate? Why did you get into it? And ultimately, what led you to EXP? We'll start there and then we'll jump into this building topic.
Okay, you're gonna have to remind me of each of those things. So before real estate, I grew up in North Pole, Alaska on a homestead, and then moved down to Idaho, got a degree in computer systems, and I worked for Blue Shield of Idaho in their IT department for about 10 years. Met my husband, moved to California. He said I could do whatever I wanted, but he really wanted me to just take care of him. And I said, honey, I love the job, but the pay sucks. So he said, well, do whatever you want. So I got into real estate. I'd always wanted to, but I never had an opportunity where I could shift from one career to the other. So I had my chance and I jumped in both feet.
I love that. And what year was that?
2004.
2004. So 21 years ago. Incredible. Now, obviously, you have a lot of experience in the industry and you've seen a lot of things over the years. For the benefit of everybody that was on the call today, would love to know how you initially saw EXP and what had you migrate into this community and platform for yourself. And I think the reason why I want to highlight that is because everybody that's on this call has gone through that transition. And it's very unique and different, but when we hear what that transition has been for other people, it helps us to stay relatable with the people that haven't yet seen or put the dots together, connected the dots for themselves. So very interested for you to share that part of the journey.
Sure. So I was at a boutique brokerage at the time. I had joined Krista Mayshore's coaching. So I was, making videos, putting out a lot of social media content. And my broker sold his boutique to Compass, and they promised nothing would change, and everything changed. So they tried to roll us back to a baby split, tried to tack on a franchise fee, and I was a single mom, widow, and it felt like they were sticking their hand in my pocket, and I didn't like that at all. So I loved them before that. It's like I loved my broker until I didn't, and then it was time to go. So Krista had moved her boutique to EXP, and I asked her about it, and she goes, "Talk to Jesse." And that's when I met Jesse. So I jumped on a call with Jesse and just barely even brushed what EXP was about. And I'm like, 80/20 sounds good. Let's go. And I jumped ship and moved to EXP.
So I think there's a couple of important things about what you just shared for everyone to note. And that is, how many times do we hear people say, "Oh, I love my broker. I love my broker," right? At the end of the day, a broker's running a business. And so as those changes happen, those were business changes. And it's really easy to get personal and professional. Those lines kind of blurred. So a lot of times when people say, "I love my broker," that's great because it's a sign of loyalty and that's a great characteristic as a human being, right? And then that question becomes, for those people that you may be having that conversation with that say that, that question becomes, it's a way to edify somebody for their loyalty. And then ask is, do you feel your loyalty to your broker supersedes your loyalty to yourself and your family? Because that's ultimately what the conversation becomes, right? When someone is able to position themselves and their family more powerfully, with more impact and in a better way, and is, hung up in this perspective or paradigm around, a relationship with a broker. So I think the other important thing is just how quickly things can change, right? So you're in that, I love my broker, and then it all of a sudden things change. So when we think about like people that we're in conversations with and they say, "Yeah, follow up in 6 months," well, something can change in 60 days, and 6 months is too long, right? And it's kind of like, similar principles of when people are looking to buy or sell property. Like, if I always cut that time period in half, knowing things can change and things can change quickly. And then it's a matter of who's there and who's in that conversation to support that person when the change happens. So I think there's a lot of things that we can learn just from your transition here, and after being, an agent in the industry for so long. So I love that. So you come to EXP and it was initially for the splits. So talk about how your process was of getting integrated into the bigger picture, the community, ultimately to be able to see everything that was available to you. And then what were the things that you were drawn to and what were the things you were resistant about?
Okay, so like you said, I was just there for the split, selling real estate. I didn't have any intention of building an organization. Um, I think I got exposed to it a little bit where, it was suggested that maybe I might do okay at that, but I'd been recruited in the past so much that I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. I felt like it was, I mean, we laugh and say that I thought it was gross, but I think what was gross was the way that I was recruited in the past. So that's why I thought recruiting was bad. And it just wasn't something I could wrap my head around. And then um, there was a couple people that I knew. One, my cousin, who's on this call, and another gal that I was good friends with. They both joined with minimal effort, and I think it was just the timing for them with their brokers and being part of, the collaboration that we have. And so I thought, wow, if that just happened that easily, maybe I should pay attention to it. So I started getting on the calls that teach you how to do agent attraction. I started watching um, Brent Gove's videos, um, Brent, Jean, um, and just started absorbing it. And then it was probably about 6 months in that I started agent attracting, like actively
Okay.
agent attracting.
So let's back up a little bit to you being on the receiving end of someone attempting to recruit you. Obviously, being in the industry for over 21 years now. That happened multiple times throughout your career. And I always say that when people have experiences that they love, they want to have more of those experiences. And when they have experiences that they don't love, they never want to have that experience again. So what were some of the experiences? Because I think there's some of the greatest learnings can come from the things that we don't like. And then we can make a note to ourselves of like, hey, don't be that person, don't do that. So what were the things that you personally experienced that were what I call push energy, or that would push you away versus draw you in over the years of having different people attempt to recruit you?
I remember one very specific. She had switched to, I was at Prudential at the time. That's where I started. And it was a person that let's just say she wasn't my favorite person. She was a little taker, and that's fine. We've got all those givers and takers. But she switched, and she literally just picked up the phone and she goes, "Hey, you should come join me over here." And I was like, "I wouldn't join you anywhere. Like, I sure as heck I'm going to switch brokerages to be near you. I don't even want to walk across the office to say hello to you. I surely wouldn't join you." And I just thought, how crazy someone that I'm not even friends with would think that I'd want to be in business with them. And then I remember another time I had a broker, and my mom had just passed away. And I said, "I can't talk right now. I'm dealing with something, just lost my mom." And he didn't stop. He just kept coming after me on that phone call. And I thought, "You're a jerk." And I just hung up on him. So that was my experience, the ones that I remember.
Yeah. So let's, break those down a little bit. You should join me over here. So we always say that language is powerful, right? And I say, well, when someone says I should, I'm like, did you just should on me? Like, really, you just should on me? Because should is a form of persecution. You should have done this. You should have done that. This is what you should do. It is it's the teacher doing this, it's the parent doing this. And when you do that in adult relationships, it doesn't feel good to be should on, because it's essentially full of judgment and persecution. And it's not, in that instance, in the example that you shared, that was the agent making it about themselves versus them making it about you. Right. So when we think about the definition of recruiting or attraction, which is caring enough about somebody else to learn about what's working in their life and their business, what's not working, what are their hopes and dreams, and then be a resource to help them get it. Nowhere in that initial one that felt so icky was there anything about you other than persecution. You were being persecuted by somebody that thought you should join them. Oh, by the way, you didn't even like that person, so why would you want to share more close space, right? And then the second example that you gave, which shut you down versus opened you up. And when we think about attraction and recruiting, I think about like attraction, like a flower that's opening. And to be open, open, open is like we want more, so we let people see more, so we reveal more. And that's how those connections and those relationships get created. And then in that example that you said in the second one, that you had mentioned that your mom had just passed away, and they didn't skip a beat, they just kept going in the conversation. And so that again essentially is communicating the same thing, that it's not about you, it is about the other person. Now, interestingly enough, making it about ourselves is what keeps us from being in conversations around attraction and recruiting, because of what people will think or how they'll perceive us. And so it's the very thing that keeps us from doing that. And then when we do it and it's about ourselves and not the other person, then it feels like it has felt to you in those instances that you remember, that you obviously would not recreate based on being on the receiving end of that. And so a lot of it is awareness, right? We can go from our own personal experiences that create a different level of awareness for us. And then the question becomes, okay, are we going to remember that awareness when it comes to how we are going to deal, interact, work with people, right? And then is it a matter of functionality? Like, oh, my mom just died. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Or is it, okay, we're pivoting out of a business conversation now, and there's nothing to talk about business, because let me check in on the person that's in front of me. And and switch to that from a place of truly caring and being interested in someone, in someone else or about someone else.
I
So,
probably would have been open to his conversation if he hadn't have done that.
yeah.
That would,
So think about how many times we all get in calls and conversations where we're like maybe back to back, or we've got, an appointment that we're going to or something that's happening afterwards, and we don't take the time to slow down and get intentional before we go into a conversation because it's like, oh, I just got to do the next one on the calendar, the next one on the calendar, the next one on the calendar. And so instead of taking a moment to pause and get really intentional about who am I going to be speaking with, what's the energy that I want to bring to this conversation, what is my intention in this connection, and the time that we're going to have, we just run into it to check the boxes off. And in that, when we're not aware, you have experiences like the one that you just had, where, of course, like if he had been present and aware and actually was being with you versus, doing whatever he was doing at that moment in time, the conversation quite likely would have gone very different. But I think it's a great learning lesson because I mean, I know I do that. And particularly like when we're in a space where we're racing from one thing to the next, or we're back to back, or we've got a lot going on, is that, being in a connected heart space is not the space we're operating from. We're operating from a task space of getting stuff done. And so, very important, particularly just in this recruiting attraction conversation, like how to be attractive, how to be interested versus interesting, and really be with someone that's in front of us is so much of the foundation of what we go into. So, anything that you'd add to that, Kim, based on your experience?
no, but I think, like you said, they're both learning experiences and we can draw from them. And I think going through those does help you, when you're the one attracting. And I try to go at I try to not think about like the end game, like I want you to come over here and be with us, but I just try to just kick the can down the road when I'm having those conversations because people don't recruit overnight. I mean, it's a process, right? And I just try to meet them where they're at. And they might not be ready, like Paula shared at the retreat at your house. She goes, it took 2 years, 2 years for me to join Kim. And she was one of the ones that loved her broker. And I told her, I said, where's your broker going to be when you're about 75 trying to pay your bills? Like, you know, are they going to be helping you? No. And she doesn't even speak to that broker anymore. So, yeah.
Powerful. Okay, so fast forward, we're going to pivot into so you start watching videos about agent attraction, and you've got, family member, Debbie comes into EXP, and it's like, oh, well, that wasn't resistant and almost effortless. And oh, well, that's cool. I wonder, you know, and that, so I want to say this for everyone is that's all it takes is a little wedge that lets a little possibility in for people to shift the way that they're thinking about things. So, what are experiences that can be recreated? What are little openings that can be created? So often we're like going for a result versus an opening, right? And for most people, it's openings that get opened that then they want to walk through and go, okay, let's open it a little wider. Let's open it a little wider. Let's open it a little wider. I always say I never recruit anybody. They recruit themselves. And like it's not for me to recruit anyone. People are going to recruit themselves based on the experiences they have, the things they learn, the things they want, and how they connect all of those pieces of value together. And so how do we be the people that, that do that? So great thing in the next layer of your story is now there's a crack in the door and you're the one that is starting to walk through it, to learn, to explore. So you're in control of this happening versus someone saying to you, oh, Kim, I think you'd be really great at agent attraction. I think, you're a natural. You've been in the business for, close to 20 years and, you're credible. And like, why aren't you building an organization? Like that conversation is not going to encourage you to open a door. That conversation is going to shut you down if you haven't seen an opening for yourself. And so remembering that we've all got people that are in our organizations that are great people, that are great agents that maybe aren't using the influence that they have with others because the identity that they have around, or the thoughts that they have around attraction or recruiting is like, yeah, I'm not that person. I don't want to be that person. I wouldn't know where to start. And so they don't, and they keep that door closed, right? Versus, okay, how do we start to shift perspectives in the way that we look at it? And so that everyone can see that it's really just a matter of influence, and where your influence is utilized and the possibilities that get created as a result of that. So you start watching videos, and then what happened? Because you don't go from like, hey, my family member Debbie joined, to, a 225 plus agent organization. Like, there is stuff that happens in the middle of that. So,
For
and
sure.
so walk us through the next piece.
Okay, so I've been in Krista Mayshore's coaching program for several years. I've been in it almost 7 years now. Wow. And I was running her tech call because of my background. I have a background in marketing as well. And so I knew a lot of the students that were on, in her coaching. And I would help people. Like, I don't know if Linnea is still on, but she's one that joined fairly early on. And she was doing something. She was posting a video. There she is. She was posting a video because she just got a video testimonial back from one of her clients. And she's like, how cool is this? What do I do with it? And I was like, I looked, I didn't have her in my phone. So I just Facebook messaged her or video called her. And I remember her saying, oh crap, why is she calling me? And I was like, here's what you do with that. You go ding, 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 ding. And so we just chatted for a little bit and built a connection, built a friendship just based on someone reaching out and helping somebody that needed help. That's literally all it was. But I knew I liked her and we could do some cool things together. And so we just kept that conversation going, and eventually she came over.
I love that. So you're in an environment and community,
Mm-hmm.
where, real estate people that are like-minded, that want to grow. So here's, note to self and to everyone on this call: what are the environments and communities that you're in, of real estate professionals that are committed to growing and putting themselves in places where they want to grow? Because these are naturally going to be people that you are going to be like-minded with, share values with, right? Number one. Number two is staying in those communities, right? You've been in there 7 years, so you've been there for a long time. And that's not just something that you're doing as a course. It's a way of life and a way of how you do business, right? So it creates your brand, your identity in the marketplace as somebody who is learning based, and also somebody who's service based. And then, with no agenda attached to it other than being a help, that is how the value in the relationship, that door opened, right? And so I think there's so much to learn from that, because you didn't have to guess the value. It wasn't in a snazzy email that you're putting out, or a marketing piece, or some video you were doing. The value that got created was based on what Linnea was looking for, and you just stood up, raised your hand, reached out, and helped her get what she was looking for, therefore creating value with her, right? And I think this is one of like the most oversold ideas in our industry is, oh, just add value, write snazzy emails, create snazzy marketing pieces, and, educate buyers, educate sellers. These are all value, value, value. Well, not if it's not value to that person based on what they're looking for. And when you know what somebody's looking for because they've raised their hand and said it, or you've taken the time to build and establish a relationship and find out what it is that they're actually looking for, generally it's about delivering just whatever that thing is. It doesn't mean that there's not value in the other things, but there's not value in the other things to that person at that point in time. And then people wonder, well, I'm putting out all of this value, and what, nothing's coming from it. What's happening, right? Well, who's it actually valuable to, right? And so I love that when we think about being of service to other people, like you've got your radar up always of like, who can I help, who can I serve? And then we never know what's going to happen from that. And sometimes other things happen, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes that is a, one stop shop experience, and then we don't see or engage with that person again, yet we showed up and served anyway. So now, you definitely had a paradigm shift of going from resistant on the whole attraction and recruiting thing to embracing it. We talk about what happened and what changed in your mind for that to happen.
I think I just recognized the opportunity and how it could change like the life I have with my son and then also his life. And I think that was probably it. And then I received a small lump sum of money from my mom's estate, and it gave me a window. And I realize now you can do them both at the same time. But at the time, I was, thinking it had to be one or the other. So I just put my blinders on and just focused on agent attraction for about 6 months because I could. And it gave me momentum. And I was also running a skin in the game accountability call every morning. I did that for several years. So I saw these same people every morning for a half hour every day, 5 days a week. So I built good, strong relationships. And a lot of those agents came over. So that helped me build like my front line. But then I realized I heard someone say, push over the biggest domino that'll knock over the rest of the dominoes that you want. And for me, that was teaching people to do what I was doing and helping them grow. So then I took my foot off the attracting for my front line. And then I focused on my first, second, and third level. And I started helping them build theirs. And that's when the real momentum happened.
I love that. So, for people that build large organizations here, it is never going to be one person that is going to go do that by themselves. And what you mentioned is so important. It's like the way that large organizations get built is because everyone's building their own organizations. You get a duplication and a scalability of other people winning as well, right? And so our entire ecosystem is set up that the more we help other people win in our ecosystem, the more we win. And that is, that is a beautiful thing. And particularly to be able to help people connect the dots that maybe were in the same space as you that were like, oh, I don't see myself doing attraction or recruiting. Although it would be really nice to have, the benefits of revenue share and organization, right? And so getting in the trenches, rolling up your sleeves and doing that work with people. Now, you intimated there was things that you learned along the way, things that did not work so well, where you got some great learning lessons, and then things that you discovered that really did. So talk about those.
I think some of the things that worked really well were finding out like what was important to the people that were already in the organization and then helping them get to those places. Like me personally, I don't want to be on stages. I don't want to be, I mean, I'm an introvert. Selena and I were just talking about this. Like, I'll be on the porch all week long. I don't need to go anywhere because I like it right here. But there's a lot of people that are in my organization that do want that. And or they want different things. Like an example would be Betsy from San Antonio. She wanted something with EXP and her heritage. So got in touch with Rosie, and now Betsy is a Latino ambassador for EXP because that's what's important to her. So I just try to figure out what people want and then help them get to those spots. So that's worked really well. Were you going to say something? Sorry. I think you're muted.
I think I got timed out. Because if you were to ever say, oh, what does Betsy want? That would have never been something that you guessed, right?
No.
Like you couldn't have guessed that. That would require being in conversation, being in a relationship, and being interested to find that out. And that same thing, so there's, the attraction and recruiting process of something that will bring someone into an organization. And there's also that process that is ongoing that keeps someone in an organization. Because it's not just, it's not game over once somebody's here. It's game starts once they get here, right? everybody's going to be on their own growth path, growing into and wanting and aspiring to do different things. And so that is where the maturing of an organization, the retention of an organization, all of those things come into play when people are feeling seen, fed, nourished, and like they're able to grow and progress and get what their next level is going to be as a result of being in this community. So definitely incredible leadership on your part. If there's something that you say that you experienced that was like completely ineffective, however, it was a great lesson. If you could think back and pull one of those, what would it be?
Not staying in contact with people as well as I should, because I've lost a few off my front line. And, I think I could have done a better job staying in contact and keeping them plugged in to different things. And so I do it differently now because of that. I mean, with the people that are still here. So the retention piece is something that I focus on a lot right now because, it's what the cost of a customer, but retaining a customer, it's much higher to go get a new customer than to take care of the one that you already have. Same thing with agents. It's harder to go recruit a new one than it is to just take care of the ones that are already with you. So I'm spending a lot more time doing that, learning. That's what I've learned from that.
And do you have a system and process around that, or what does that look like?
I'm not a systems and process girl. Sorry. Sorry, Selena. Sorry, Linnea. I just have people around me that are really good at that stuff. I think the things that I do well, I talk to people. Like that is what I do. I laugh because um especially Wendy, she's like, "Can I get your Calendly link?" And I'm like, "I don't have one." And she's like, "What?" And I'm like, "I don't have one." She goes, "You want me to make you one?" Sorry, Selena, I see your face. But that is how, I mean, it works for me.
It
She's like,
worked for Rick.
"Isn't that interesting?" Yeah. It's like I don't have, I mean, I have my calendar is time blocked, but I don't run calls right now. And they're like, "Well, how are you doing what you're doing?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's just it works. I pick up the phone and talk to people."
And there it is, right? So you can have the most effectively time blocked calendar however, if that time block doesn't get executed, it doesn't matter, right? And so at the end of the day, what is true, whether you're on the real estate agent sales side or the attraction and recruiting side, is that it is conversations with people, it's connections with people, and it's those interactions with people. And so when we understand that that's the business that we're in, and then we can look at the effectiveness of that. And for people that love systems and processes and want to have that, dialed in to look a certain way for them each day, they'll do that, right? And then it's done. And then for people like you or people like Rick, that are just like, oh, I have a spare 15 seconds. Who can I be texting right now or connecting with? Or I was just thinking about this person, or, that just came up, or I just had a cancellation and somebody didn't show. And so, oh, I'm thinking of this person. I'm going to pick up the phone and call them or reach out to them. And so it's that top of mind. And at the end of the day, if you encapsulate all of that, that's really service, right? So it is, I mean, I can't tell you since, and you have this experience as well, right? With the passing of your husband and having that happen unexpectedly, just to get a text that says, I'm thinking of you, that someone takes the time to stop what they're doing and send a text that says, hey, just wanted you to know I'm thinking of you. Like we never know how far those things are going to go. And it's just a matter of, are we in the habit and practice of being people that are reaching out, that are thinking about people, that are letting them know that are, and that's where engagement starts and opens and can go from there. But as people, right? And so I had a mentor that I loved. He would always say, he would get up in the morning and he had this whole routine and practice, which was his version of the miracle morning, but he was very faith-based, and he would always ask to be put in front of the people that were looking for him, that he could help and serve, that he didn't know that he could help and serve in that moment, but let him be the person to find them and to be able to do that. And that those would be the people that, came across his path that day. And so it's a very intentional way to go into the day, right? of who am I going to serve today? Who am I going to impact today? Obviously, that's built into your nature and how you are. And so it's not something that you need accountability around. It's not something that you need to be, checking off a list because it's how you're wired is to get up and serve and help people. And so I think that is sometimes it can be half the battle, right? Because as life and business and everything that's going on, it's always going to be going on. It can become challenging sometimes to go wake up, and be asking ourselves, who are we going to serve today and how are we going to serve them? And at the end of the day, it can feel, particularly when you get into building an organization like you're building, that now is hundreds of people in it, is that is the energy and the responsibility that goes with leadership. And then you deciding what kind of leader that you're going to be for the organization and the community that you're creating and how you want to show up, in that way. And I think the beautiful thing about that for everyone that's on this call is, Kim, you have modeled that beautifully, and it's unique like a fingerprint. Like everybody has to find and make their way of how they're going to do their version of that wants to grow and build their own communities, within EXP. And because at the end of the day, it's like, all right, these are people that I'm going to be walking through life and business with. And to the extent that we actually do walk together, there can be relationships that exceed business on so many levels that get created as a result of, it's like, oh, the business is what's brought us together, or the platform or the opportunity of EXP is what brought us together, except for now that we are together in that space, all of these other things and possibilities that can happen. And so I know like you're planning retreats. You guys have had a retreat. We're getting ready to do another one. You're looking at doing a horse experience, and different things to continue to grow the people and grow the community. So what would you say, like, uh, has been, what's the moment where it started to become fun for you that you wanted to do it more?
Going to the EXP events and then having the people that are in the organization to do it with. Like that's the best part. I mean, I think of it like a draft horse, right? Draft horse can pull 8,000 pounds. You put two draft horses together, you think it'd be 16. But if you yoke them and teach them to pull, that's how I visualize my organization is like two draft horses yoked, trained to pull, can pull like 46,000 pounds. So it's like exponential and so I just look at it and going, all right, there's a draft horse, there's a draft horse, there's a draft horse. And we're pulling at such I'm missing my words, but it's just the force of what we're building and growing is just incredible. And it's snowballing. So I would say going to the events with the people that we've built the organization with is probably when it started getting really fun.
I love that. So you've got alignment. You've got everybody going the same direction, doing the same things, right? The things for growth. Uh, like there'll be an event this Thursday, the Northern California EXP Regional Rally up in Lincoln, which is north of Sacramento for the Northern California region. Opportunity for anybody that's not yet going to that, to make plans and get to that, and be part of that. And the part that you're talking about, and Linnea put it in, that snowballing is the power of momentum. And it's the difference of being one person out there pushing, driving, doing. And then what you described in the draft horse example of when you start to get a collective that comes together and the momentum that gets created from that, it is not near the same effort because, 1 plus 1 is not 2. It's far more than that, right? And so you have intentionally created, oh, who are the people I want to be aligned in business and life with? And now replicating that for them, who are the people they want to be aligned in business and life with? And how do we keep growing and snowballing and creating that momentum? And that's the beautiful thing, is that over time it will become bigger than you. It will become much bigger than you. And there'll be thousands of people in the organization that you're building, and there'll be more that you don't know than the ones that you do. And that's what happens when you have a vehicle and a platform like we have at EXP, and you have people who catch their own vision and take ownership and leadership of themselves, their lives, their future, and they want to make it better for the people that are around them as well. And so I love that you're such an example in that space. For anybody that's on the call, would love to open it up just for questions or anything that you would like to ask Kim that we haven't yet covered, because I know she's a totally open book and willing to share anything. And so while you guys are either coming off mute or putting those in the chat, if there's one thing that you would say to a new person that's kind of just getting their feet wet or embarking on this journey of growing and building, what would you say to the new person, Kim, while people are getting their questions present?
Age and attraction is everywhere. You can age and attract anywhere. Like I get into a mode where it doesn't matter where I'm at. I'm like, you come here, you got good energy. Come be near me. And have you ever considered getting your real estate license? Like I have that conversation a lot. And everything I feel is age and attraction. I mean, that sounds pretty simple, but it really is. Like even within like the horse community, because I'm working on that now too. There's a lot of realtors that are horse people. So I'm joining like the land and ranch division that just rolled out for EXP. And and that's my lifestyle. I mean, I hunt, I fish, I ride tractors, motorcycles, horses, all the things, right? And so I'm getting ready to hit that pretty hard right now.
And I think that's huge, right? So it's not something outside of you that's different. You didn't say golf. You're not in the golf community. You're in the horse community, right? You're like, oh, well, lots of people that have real estate needs or would have, well, like, let's go golf. No, poke me in the eye with a needle, right? You're like, no, give me some horses, right?
Sure.
So you're living, doing the things that are natural, organic to you, places that you want to be, places that you want to spend more time. And now who are those communities that will come to you? And so this is not when we're doing something that's outside of what we want to be doing or where our values are, we need accountability, we need a push, we need an external force that's going to be like keeping us, to that. And then when we do things that are naturally aligned with who we are and where we want to be and what we're doing, it is organic and it comes naturally. And then it's fun and you want to do more of it. And so I think for everybody that's on this call, like be asking yourselves, what are the areas where you just love showing up and participating in your life? And then what are the opportunities in those areas that you love showing up and participating in your life that you maybe haven't been open to or haven't seen yet, that if you open your eyes to, or if you just even started asking yourself, well, what are the opportunities here that I'm not seeing? Every time you're in a situation or area in your life where you love, those opportunities and possibilities will start to become very abundantly clear. And now it's just a matter of going, okay, now I'm going to open my mouth when those arise and when those happen. So, okay, who's got a question for Kim
I
or a
do.
comment?
I
Yes,
have.
yeah.
So one of the things that I, hi Kim. One of the things that I'm working on with a lot of my organization right now is trying to encourage them to have more of a direct question versus like some of the, because people have a hard time sometimes understanding the transition from providing value to making an offer. So just curious, what would like, do you have a ratio of people that you ask like a super direct question to versus how much you provide value and kind of, if not, what is your transition from providing value to making an offer?
I think it depends on the situation and the relationship. But like with you and me, it was pretty apparent. I mean, I was super blunt because I knew I could be. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I had to, you know, have so many touches before I said, hey.
Right.
So it was real direct with you. But that's our relationship and that's both our personalities that we can be like that. But other people, like Paula, um, I would just check on her and but I think I was a little direct with her too. But I think when you come from your heart, you like know in your heart that that's the best thing for that person. I mean, I wasn't doing it for me. I was doing it for her or for you. And so I think it depends on the relationship. but otherwise, like there's a relationship that I'm building. There's two that I just stay in touch with them. So I'm not super direct with them, but I just plug them into different things that we have going on. And for them, it's just a matter of time. And I'm not going to change. I've known them for a long time. And eventually I think they'll come. So I think it just depends. Sorry, that wasn't a good answer.
No, it's a great answer actually. And one of the for those of you that are looking for direct questions, one of the ones that I've been loving asking lately is, just checking in on what's been your experience in your, business, real estate business year to date. And people will talk about, how much business they've done or not done, or, what they're looking to do. And then a direct question that I really love asking is, based on the amount of business you have done this year, how much ownership have you earned into your company that you're working for?
I like that.
And a question like that that's direct. So, and the importance of a question like that is not, are you? Anytime you ask a question that's got a yes or a no, it stops a conversation potentially. But an open-ended question like that will, when the mind goes to look for the answer, then it reveals the gap. And now they're curious about why you would be asking that question and how that's even possible. And so so sometimes we think about direct questions being confrontive or aggressive or, pushy. And a direct question can be that way. However, it can also be not that way at all. It can be a pattern interrupt that has the mind. If you pause and don't say anything and just leave the space and let it hang, that person will start to reveal a void or a gap and potentially open up curiosity that now has them in a conversation with you that they wouldn't otherwise be in. And so that I think if you have like a handful of those that you like using, like I love using that one. And another one that I love using is for people that have been in just in conversation about how life and business is going. I'll ask them if they've read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if they have and they're familiar with cash flow quadrant, uh, and for however long they're in the business or have been in the business, it's like, isn't it amazing that while the masses of real estate agents will always live on the left-hand side of that cash flow quadrant, that agents that want to now can live and build businesses on the right-hand side from day one, right? Or for agents that are looking at brokerages, different brokerages and looking at potentially making a change and they're lining up, XYZ different brokerages. While all of those are interesting, they're on the left-hand side of the quadrant, which means you're in a sales job for as long as you shall choose to sell. When what's possible is that you could actually be building something with every transaction that you do in the business, which we love being in that conversation with people and helping them do that, right? So like there's just things that you can be direct without being obnoxious that that create a different space for people. Paula, it looked like you were coming off mute and going to say something.
Yeah, I just, in the whole process with Kim, I definitely felt when she started to truly believe that she wasn't really recruiting. She was talking to me about making my life better. And she believed that. I know she believed that. And 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 that started to make a difference in my mind versus just, hey, you should come on over, because this is great, right? And not that that was ever her direct thing, but when she was starting to be direct with me, I remember her literally saying, Paula, you can do this too. I'm just helping people. This is what we do, Paula, and we had that conversation. And so I think, whether Kim remembers that or not, it was, I could tell when she truly started to believe that what she was doing was a good thing, not just for her, but for the person that she was talking to. So.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and I think that makes a difference of why you've built what you've built, because I think I'm not the only one that probably felt that. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though
So
it was a direct question for me, it was very much the same. It was very direct. It's like, when are you coming? But it was like, it was the time, right? So like it wasn't, you didn't have to sell me on EXP. I already was like, I just needed the person. And so Kim just kind of stepped in line at the right time.
yeah. And so I think there's like such great learning in that, right? Because Is Kim going to benefit as she enrolls agents to EXP and helps them enroll agents? Yes. However, that's not the forefront, the driver of the conversation. It's a byproduct of what happens if the help is offered and received. And so I think that that's such an important place, like coming from a place of service, being a servant leader, and then entering into a conversation. It's that old saying, people don't know how much, don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and that, they forget what you say, however, they remember what they feel. And that authenticity of actually caring about people, caring about helping them get what they want. I mean, I know I have improvement in this area to make, right? Because when I haven't yet established or built a relationship and I'm attempting to find out what someone wants, it's like sometimes I don't feel like I really care. I get frustrated. I'm like, I want more for you than you want for yourself. And and they're like, oh, just want to, stay in this fixed little small place, right? However, that's me making it about me when I get frustrated or impatient versus meeting somebody where they're at, actually caring about them, how can I be one step ahead of them so that they can see a possibility, like again, the crack in the door. That doesn't have to be the full picture. It just is the crack in the door that creates a different possibility or a different conversation. And I think, as a testament to the people that are in this conversation that are on the call today, Kim, is that everybody's on their own time. And whether that was Paula over the course of a couple of years, I mean, like, does it really matter if it took Paula a couple of years now that she's here now? It doesn't, because if we know that the eventuality is, as long as we're here and we're still committed to growing and building, that everybody that we want to be in business with, when they see it in their time, will be here with us. We just keep doing what we're doing, and they enter, it's like an on-ramp on the freeway. They enter the on-ramp on the freeway at the time that's right for them to enter that on-ramp, and then they get integrated into where all those draft horses now collectively are moving together and forward, and then go, this is what happens for people. They're like, oh, did I miss it? It was, is it too late? I should have done this years ago. And then that's that next layer of questions that comes up, and we go, no, 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 you didn't miss it. It wasn't too late. Like, really just standing that everybody's in their own time and having that be okay, and have people be in their own time. So the only thing that we control then is, how are we going to show up? How are we going to participate? How are we going to interact with those people? And how do we keep ourselves moving forward? Right. And Kim, you mentioned that, which I think is so important, like the events, going to events, who's coming, who we're bringing. I was in Santa Maria a few weeks ago, and you're there with multiple people coming to that event. Right. And I know we'll see at EXPCon, and we did a retreat. And so it's continuing to grow and nourish people. And when we grow and nourish people, that's where the beautiful things happen. All right. As we wrap up the call for today, if there was one more thing or anything that we haven't yet touched on that you feel would be important to add to the conversation for today, what would that be?
Just not to be scared. Like, I was scared in the beginning, really scared. And just to have conversations. But like, if you make it truly about the other person, it isn't scary anymore.
And
Like,
what were you scared of?
Talking to people, their reaction if they didn't receive my message, and just, that they wouldn't want to come join me. But that's not been the case. It's the opposite. And it's fun because, like, these are the people that I want to spend time with. They're the ones that are coming, the Paulas, the Linneas, the Debbies. And it's exciting and it's fun. And I love it.
that. I love that. So I'm gonna on that just tack on. I got a call from my goddaughter's mother over the weekend, and she said Sunny Sue's having a really tough weekend. And I said, oh, why? And she said, well, she's just, she's such a deep feeler, and so she's just having a really rough weekend. And so I FaceTimed her and I said, Sunny, what's going on? And she said, oh, I've been on timeout twice today. And I said, why have you been on timeout twice today? And she said, well, because of the voices in my head. And I said, what's going on with the voices in your head? And she said, well, they're really mean voices. And I said, have the voices in your head come out of your mouth? And she said, yes, that's why I'm on timeout. And I said, has it been to your sister or your brothers? And she said, my brothers. And I said, so what have you learned from your 2 timeouts today? And she said, not to listen to the voices in my head. And I share that story to anchor your point, is that it doesn't matter if you're 7 or chronologically advanced down the road is that we all have those voices in our head, respective to who knows what. And they're there for all of us. And it's that don't believe everything you think and go out there and be you and love people and serve people. And, you know, together we all grow and flourish. So, Kim, I want to acknowledge you as such an incredible friend and leader and an amazing example of what it looks like to build with integrity and really come from a place of contribution and wanting to lift and elevate those around you. And I'm so excited for you for everything that you've created so far and the beneficiaries, many of whom are on this call, and the ones that are still yet to come as a result of that duplicating through your organization and attracting the kind of people that you are that also have that same vision to help and serve and really make a big difference for other people. So thank you so much for being on the call today. This is recorded. You can find it on the Empire Builders Pro site under the resources tab. This Friday, we've got our free Friday coaching call at 9 a.m. I will be interviewing Jim Knowlton, who is, oh my goodness, he is, well, let me just say this about Jim, is that Rick and Jim used to have a coaching relationship years and years ago before this little company called Workman Success Systems started. And Jim's been a top producing agent and with a team in the marketplace for years and years. He is a brilliant, he worked in a coach of coaches space with Workman Success Systems. He's got industry experience. He's downright funny and down to earth, and he has so much value to bring and to offer. I would definitely recommend promoting the free Friday coaching call for this Friday and getting people on it. It will be chocked full of value and probably be entertaining as well, because Jim doesn't go anywhere where he's not entertaining. It's just part of who he is. So you guys can look for that, freefridaycoachingcall.com, 9 a.m. Pacific this Friday. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be back here on Tuesday at 9 a.m. for our third week of the month, Builders Best Practices call. Thanks all for being here.
Thank you.
Daisy.
Bye.